Divine greetings and gratitude, tribe. Welcome back to our sacred space. Of course, I'm always honored, excited, and elated to be in your presence. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Nuna. I'm here to help you transcend beyond pain and suffering, manifest and expand your consciousness by merging the arts of poetry, writing, and magic. I would love for you to become a part of our Saiyonan Collective. Make sure that you do so by clicking the subscribe button down below, because that is how you're going to stay up to date with your readings, up to date with your spiritual guidance, and also up to date with any video that I have that is here to spiritually nourish you. Today, we are going to be touching on the Capricorn Full Moon, and the reason why is because I really do feel like I want to take this full moon, and that's what I'm actually going to be doing for pretty much every intuitive video. Whatever comes through, I want to use some of those messages so that we can put them in a written reflection or a teaching or even a poem and things like that, because I am a poet and I am a writer as much as I am a seer, a witch, and the founder of the Saiyonan Ethereum, as well as of the Saiyonan Path. I would love for you to also join the Saiyonan Circle, which is a private ministry, a private space where I do give readings and I nourish you in ways that I do not do so in the public eye. I will also touch on certain things that I will not touch on YouTube and other platforms out of respect for our coven, of course, but also because I don't want to be censored because of whatever I decide to talk about. So I did create a space and whatnot that you have access to. If you are a member, make sure that you do visit the link or visit the Saiyonan Circle by clicking the link down below. Make sure that you do become a part of our family, because of course I would love to have you there. Okay. Now, I'm going to allow myself to open up as a channel to receive whatever messages that we may need for right now. And as I can see, I'm actually looking at the fluctuation of light here. It's so beautiful. I love that. So you may see some shadows here. It's because I have my camera right next to my window, and well, it's in front of my window. And so, yeah, that's why you may see a difference in light here. Anyway, so yes, I do have the moon. I have the moon on my phone. That's funny. I have the, what is it called, y'all? I have the chart put up on my phone. At least I did at first. Okay, here it is. So I want to start off by saying thank you, of course, for spending time with me here. If you do see me looking down, it's because I do have my phone here, and that is how I'm essentially doing the reading. I'm not using my iPad or my computer. I'm just simply using my phone for the time being. And yes, so anytime there is a full moon, this means that the moon and the sun are opposites. So if we are having a full moon in Capricorn, then that means that the sun is going to be in the opposite sign, which actually is in Cancer. Now, anytime there is a full moon, this is basically where we do see things not only come into a culmination, and not only is it a release, but it's also an illuminated point in time where things become a lot more obvious, and also you start to receive a lot more revelations as it pertains to a certain truth. Now, the moon does not necessarily like to be in Capricorn, and the reason why I say that is because the moon by nature is very fluid. It is more psychological, it is more emotional, it is more spiritual. It's a lot more divinely feminine as it pertains to rhythms and cycles and things like that. And Capricorn, although a feminine sign, is ruled by Saturn. So Capricorn is not necessarily immediately about the deeper emotions and things like that, or at least portraying those emotions. But Capricorn, being the goatfish, is more so about being practical as a way to navigate the deeper waters, as a way to navigate the emotional and the spiritual. Now, the fact that we do have a full moon coming up in Capricorn on June 29th, right? Because I didn't say that at first. It's happening on June 29th at roughly 7:57 p.m. EST. And the fact that we're having the moon then, this means that all things related to Capricorn full moons are going to be about, of course, ambition, of course, success, of course, climbing the ladder, of course, all those things. But it's also about our image and the things that we see for ourselves, and how we go about obtaining these aspirations, how we go about obtaining these desires and things like that. Now, Capricorn is a sign that is ruled by Saturn, of course, so it does rule ambition, it rules structure, it rules responsibility, it rules maturity, it rules realism. So anytime we're dealing with the moon, however, we are dealing with things that are more illusionary, and we're also if that's a word, right? We're also dealing with things that are more pertaining to the internal world. So I feel like the fact that we're having this full moon in Capricorn, this is where we're going to start seeing a lot more of our own inner desires, our own inner world come out. And we're also going to see that of others, especially as it pertains to what makes us feel safe, what makes us feel at home, what makes us feel like we can truly express ourselves in a very deeply more emotional and spiritual way. Now, the fact that we do have the sun that's going to be in Cancer at that time, we also have the part of fortune, Mercury retrograde, and Jupiter making his final degrees in in Cancer. This basically means to me that we're definitely going to be focusing a lot more on partnerships, a lot more on others, a lot more on relationships, and how we choose to interact with those relationships and who we allow ourselves to be devoted to and why. And I say that because anytime you're dealing with the seventh house, because Libra does rule it does rule the seventh house. Now, Cancer is going to be the accidental ruler at that time, which means that it's just simply what's ruling that house at the time of the full moon, of course. And because it does have a Libra theme here, this means that who we decide to, again, collaborate with, who we decide to extend our energy to, is going to not only be called into question, but we're going to start asking ourselves, or we're going to start seeing who really is for us, who really can create a safe space for us, who we are safe with around, and if we really can emotionally expand within these spaces. And if not, who or what is that? Right? What do they bring? Right? Like, are they allowing me to be authentic and expressive of the things that I need, my deeper desires and things like that? Now, the thing is, though, is that Capricorn can be very cold and aloof, but not because it doesn't care necessarily, but because it understands that if it gets too deep into the emotional body, that it won't be able to keep the objective. And I feel like at this point, this is not a chart or a full moon transit that's asking you to be transactional or asking you to be very logistical. It's actually asking you to open up more to help and opening up more to other people who can hold space for you, who can hold home for you, who can create home for you so that you don't have to do it alone. And I say that because we do have a really strong watery aspect to this chart. I mean, we do have Venus in the vertex point who's in Leo, but also in the eighth house, right? But the eighth house does deal with scorpionic themes. So this is death, this is rebirth, this is the deeper spiritual current, this is taxes, this is other people's monies and resources and things like that. And also we do have here Saturn and Neptune that are in the fourth house, which is the fourth house is a lunar house. It's the house of the home. It's the house of the internal world. It's the house of upbringing and things like that. So with those themes here, I feel like what's going to be called into question, or what we're going to start seeing, is a lot more of what we were brought up on, what we were raised to believe about ourselves, about others, about the world, about the way that we are meant to achieve in life, and whether or not relationships are even worth us getting into because of the achievements that we want to obtain, if that makes sense. So I feel like this moon or this chart is not asking you to focus solely on the success. It's not that. It's about who and what, again, you're devoting to, why you're choosing to devote to that, what it means to you, what they mean to you, and whether or not you truly can be integral, and whether you can go deep with these people and with this, whoever they are, in a way that helps you to obtain these goals. And I don't want you to approach this in a very logistical and a very transactional way, because again, it can feel very transactional. So if you are somebody that's used to doing things because it's just quick and it's easy and it's transactional, that definitely is going to be called into question, because what's called into question here is your level of intimacy, how deep you're willing to go, and what it means to you. And if you're willing to communicate and express those things that you do wish, the things that you do want, and whether or not you're going to allow somebody in to actually help you truly. And I say that because I feel, by the way, the fact that we do have the north nodes here that, of course, are in the sign of Pisces right now. Well, not right now. Well, yes, right now, but also at the time of the full moon. But at the time of the full moon, though, it is going to be in the third house. Pisces is going to be ruling the third house. So I want you to allow yourself, your words, your thought processes to be guided by a higher power. And I want you to allow the divine to move through you as you speak, because this is one of those things where you're not wanting to speak to, I don't want to say like roughly, but for lack of better terms, you don't want to speak too roughly. You don't want to speak in a cold manner. You really want to be honest, authentic, and you want to be vocal about the things that you really do wish and care about, truly. And I feel like Capricorn energy, this is really calling you to embrace the fact that you do require depth. You do require intimacy. You do require the rigor of love. But also, I feel like I want to point something out because Venus being in the sign of Leo, Venus and Saturn actually are making a trine at the time of the full moon. So I want you to remember that this transit is not asking for you to suck the life out of love. It's not asking you to set aside love for ambition. It's asking for you to go deeper. It's asking for you to go deeper within yourself. It's asking for you to be more authentic so that when you do decide to structure, your home, you're doing it from a space of authenticity and you're doing it with your whole chest. And you're saying that this is what I'm willing to allow myself to dive into. This is what I feel will bring me the greatest return. But it's not about a return. It's not about a tax return. It's not, or although that may be a theme for you, tax returns and things like that. But in this instance, you don't want to treat love and intimacy like it's just another tax document that you have to complete. That's not what this is. What this is to say, I'm going to put this down for the sake of me allowing myself to open up and really tune into the things that really do bring me joy, home, comfort, love, and all of those things. And I also want you to remember too that when you are at at the time of the full moon, I want you to remember the power of letting somebody else in. I want you to remember the power of allowing someone else to be here to help you. I want you to remember the power of intimacy, the power of trusting yourself, the power of letting go of old outdated ideas, and you allowing yourself to come to terms with anything that is not working, especially in terms of what you set your intention for during the new moon I believe we had back in January. I think it was January 18th. And I want you to remember that whatever is happening during this full moon, it's really just showing you what is or is not working and what needs to be released or what needs to be let go of for the sake of your prosperity. And I feel like what Spirit is letting you know is that home is what's going to help you become more prosperous. Truly, there is a strong watery aspect here. So this is deeply spiritual. And I don't see this as just something that is purely money related. Although, yes, it could be money related because we are talking about Capricorn here. This is where you start to really ask yourself, do I really want this? Is this worth it to me? And am I really wanting to put my time and attention into this? And if it's a hard no, it's a no. And if it's a yes, it's a yes. But I want you to trust yourself. I want you to talk to a higher power. I want you to talk and speak and commune with your spiritual team here. I also feel like the more that you open yourself up to receiving messages, the more that you open yourself up to receiving guidance from your guides, the more direction you'll seem to have. And I feel like at this time, I want you to remember the magic that is in the everyday reality. And your everyday reality, I want you to remember the magic of words. I want you to remember the magic of your mind. I want you to remember your magic and allow yourself to go deeper. Give yourself permission to go deeper. Because although Capricorn, the ascendant, of course, is also going to be there in Capricorn as well as far as the moon is concerned, and the moon being in the first house, this is where you have more of this appearance or the way that you show up or the way that you approach the world is in a very serious way. I want you to remember the magic and unseriousness. And it sounds like what? Like, why would you ever say that? I say that because sometimes Capricorn energy can take life extremely seriously and it misses out on the fun. It misses out on the beauty. It misses out on the playfulness of it all. And that's something that can draw and can suck the spontaneity, yes, but also suck the life out of your daily experience. And I want you to remember that you are so magical and you are so powerful. And I don't want you to forget that you are here to enjoy life as well. It's not always just about success and admiration and all these things. Maybe if that's your life, that's your life. Okay, fine. But for other people, for you, more than likely, if you are here, you understand the importance of allowing yourself to have fun and play. You're allowing yourself to experience life, because how can you reach these goals and how can you do these things if you don't have the wisdom that is required for you to make it along, to make it on your journey, right? You're going to have to live. You're going to have to open yourself up. And I really do see you being truly honest about the things that you need. I really do see you being honest about the fact that you may really want to be vulnerable, but you don't trust people. There's a level of cynicism that's coming through with this chart, and it's because, and it has a lot to do with upbringing. Okay, I do see an issue here that I'm not liking, and the issue that I'm seeing here has everything to do with Pluto trining with Mars and Uranus and Mars, who are conjunct in the sign of Gemini, and of course Pluto being retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. This has everything to do with AI, apps, and the collection of data and information, and how it's being used, and how it's being used in your everyday reality, in your life, your systems, and the systems that you use, how that information is being collected to have power and control over you, and how people don't want that. I feel like I'm going to be going into that behind the scenes. I'm going to actually cut it off there. I'm not going to talk about that transit here. What I will do is share that with the Saiyonan circle. I had to change the lighting situation. Thank you for holding on for me. Anyways, I believe I was talking something about the Pluto, Uranus, and Mars transit. I feel like I want to go a little bit deeper into that behind the scenes, but to kind of just sum it up here, this is where you're going to start seeing a lot more pushback and people having a reason to feel like they don't want to accept these things, accept these terms, and people are going to start falling away a lot more and eliminating anything that is going to be compromising their privacy in terms of what they do every day, their rituals and things like that. Okay, so I had to go get cute for a second because I'm back outside. I'm in my garden. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that actually, because I can't really tell. But anyways, yes, I ended up coming outside because I was actually getting ready to do a few things in the garden before I end the day outside. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the transit that's happening with the Mars and Uranus conjunction. I remember mentioning it earlier in the video, and I wanted to just let you know that you don't want to be impulsive when it comes to you finding out things in regards to your privacy, in regards to things regarding your information being collected and things like that. If anything, you want to move with wisdom, and you want to allow yourself to be very intentional as to what information you are providing in terms of these apps, in terms of these systems. And the reason why is because anything and everything will be collected in order to fuel their system. Also, you want to make sure that you are taking the more humanitarian approach in terms of spirituality and in terms of connecting spiritually with other people. And I say that because they are going to be designing, they meaning companies, whatever, are going to be designing a lot more apps that are going to be obtaining information in regards to your ritual, in regards to your day-to-day reality, in regards to your rhythms. And I feel like in order for you to have the most sense of sovereignty, you want to ensure that you're not putting each and every single last little bit of information in these systems. I want you to start moving away from period tracking apps. I want you to move away from anything where you need to implement certain information about you in regards to health and things like that, because all of this information is being stored somewhere and you may not have access to that. So I want you to remember to be very intentional about where you put your information, what you are getting yourself into, to ensure that you are maintaining the highest sense of sovereignty possible. And I also want to mention too that I remember stating that I believe that Mars and Uranus are conjunct, but they're both going to be trining Pluto. Now, trines are very beautiful aspects, absolutely, but at the same time, because there is a trine, this means that there is going to be more of a call, or more of a push, or more of a need for people to do something about the data that's being collected. And also the fact that at the time of the full moon, Aquarius is actually going to be ruling the second house. This has a lot to do with data centers. So I want you to be very careful about the way that you are choosing to go about situations, especially because the full moon is actually leaning closer to July. And I remember mentioning earlier that July to me is going to be I feel like it's going to be a pretty crazy time for some people. But I want you to always remember to move with wisdom, and that we are in a pivotal moment in human history where we are seeing ourselves collectively. I feel like AI is not the issue. It's the people programming AI, and it's the way that AI is being used. And I feel like now we're going to progress and move into an age where we're going to start to understand, okay, I really do need to prioritize my health and well-being, but also my relationship to other humans. My apologies. My babies came outside, so I had to stop the transmission. But what we're going to be calling into question is our connection to each other, as humans, as spiritual beings having an experience, as spirits and bodies, as bodies and spirits, whatever you want to call it. I feel like the reason why is because there is more of a humanitarian thing, a collective need to come together and say, this is what we are not accepting as our reality as spiritual beings, and this is what we're not going to allow ourselves to get into. So I want you to start opening up your heart, opening up your mind, and really taking yourself seriously, yes, but also opening up to the idea of deeper connection with other people. This is where you start to understand that not all strangers are bad, not all strangers have your worst interest at heart, and not all strangers want to take from you. Not all people want to take from you. Not all people want to hurt you or harm you. I feel like I want you to use your discernment, yes, but I want you to open yourself up to making a deeper connection to people. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be buddy buddy with everybody. I'm saying that it's essential that we utilize this time to come together collectively in order to progress humanity forward. Okay. So, yes, that's kind of all that I remember because, again, I had to stop the transmission because my babies came out. So, yes. Also, I do feel like there's something very specific coming through about the word ritual. So this could be, I don't know, like ritual vitamins, or this could be anything dealing with, maybe there's an app called Ritual. I'm not really sure, but there's something about ritual and how AI is being used to receive information about rituals in order to, go, deeper into advertisements and things like that. But it really does have a lot to do with the collection of data. And if you're wondering anything about data centers, of course, this has everything to do with Pluto being retrograde in Aquarius in the second house too. So there's going to be something a lot more coming out in terms of data centers at the time of the full moon. And the fact that the moon is in Capricorn, if we're talking about things on a more global level, this is problematic because anytime the moon is in Capricorn, when you're dealing with things and, globally, this could almost kind of feel like, government officials and things like that can kind of force their will in terms of what you, I don't want to say believe necessarily, but the way that you interact with their systems and things like that, and the way that you go about life, it can be very much dominating. So this is where people get tired of feeling dominated and where they start to give a lot more pushback. I'm not saying that there's going to be any riots, but I am saying that the fact that Mars and Uranus are conjunct, I don't see that as anything too positive, especially leading up to July. July, I believe, is going to be a bit of a crazy time for people, and I do believe that people again they're just so focused on, not again because I didn't say that, but people are so focused on their sovereignty. People are focused, of course, right? We're focused on sovereignty and we're focused on freedom. So anything that's going to jeopardize that, people are not happy about that. So I feel like that's about all that I will say to that. But overall, if I were going to be working my magic during this full moon, which I absolutely will, it would be to obtain goals and, advance my career and things like that. But it will also be to welcome in people and who can help me to not only get there, but who I can really be myself with, what team I can call in to help me along my path, who I could be abundant with, but I can also be abundantly myself, who I can be the most transparent and really talk about the things that I really do love and care about. This is where you want to really open yourself up, and you really want to start and if I were going to work my magic, it would be around inviting people into my space who create home for me the way that I create home for others. It will be to allow myself to relieve the stress by communicating with others the things that I do need, the things that I do want, and the things that I do care about. And I will also set my intention on receiving abundance and prosperity, and really just allowing myself to take myself seriously and really channel my inner authority and take myself seriously enough so that I can obtain what it is that I want in the world. But I will not, and I repeat, I would not allow myself to deviate away from welcoming in beautiful relationships, because this is something that is coming through. Again, I would focus, if you're someone that is very transactional, I would definitely say that is going to be called into question, especially in relation to the divine masculine or, to others. Yes, I would call that into question. And if people are being transactional with you, you can call that out and you can say, you know what, I don't want this. I don't like this. I know me myself. I don't like transactional relationships. I don't like things like that. I will tell you in a heartbeat. Nope, this is transactional. Don't like it. We ain't got to be, extra, hold my hand, and things like that, no, but there does need to be a level of care, a level of compassion, a level of I see you as human, right? Like I see you as a spiritual being, like I see you as a soul, not just some mechanical thing that I can just take out, take things out and put things in when I'm ready. Like, I don't see that. Like, I don't see you as a mechanical thing. I see you as an actual being who's worth love, time, dedication, devotion, and respect. And I feel like that's something that is definitely a theme for this full moon. So I will work my magic around that. If I were going to use anything in particular, it would 100% be myrrh. It would 100% be patchouli. It would also be chamomile. And I would also work with, I don't think red clover blossom is good for this one. I feel like that's more of like Sagittarian theme, but I feel like if I were going to work with anything, it would be very grounding. So if there's anything else that I would work with, I would make sure to put that in the description box or in the comment section. I will also be definitely creating, as a matter of fact, do I have one available? I do have certain things available in the Ethereum that you can work your magic using for the planet specifically. I also do have a full moon. It's called La Luna Llena, and that is for the full moon. For anything pertaining to the full moon, it does change depending on what you're going to be working your magic for. It does depend on the moon phases. That's the way that I like to do things. That's just me. Maybe you don't like doing that. That's cool. Like, you don't have to do that. If I were going to be working with any planets at this time, it would definitely be Venus, 100%. I would also be working with, obviously the moon. So the moon, I will be working with Venus. I would also be working, as a matter of fact, that's just really what I will focus on. Because if the intention is, beauty, abundance, prosperity, success, all those things, I would 100% be working with that at that time. And yes, so if there's anything else that I need to give to you, I will let you know later. Also, that is actually what the theme is going to be for the next writing piece. I feel like it's going to be being safe enough to open up and express the things that you do need. And I feel like I want to kind of make the poems around there if I decide to write a poem. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to write a poem, but I do know that that's going to be a theme. I feel like I really want you to open up to the power of intimacy and going deep within yourself and others, and trusting that when you do combine yourself with others, that this is where you do reach a greater capacity for abundance and prosperity in all things divine. Not in a transactional way, but in a way that does help to deepen your sense of self, deepen your sense of spirituality with yourself, and just allowing others to be there in this, deeper way. So I feel like that's going to be the theme here. And I also feel like it's also going to pertain to releasing ideas regarding, upbringing and love and, inner world, and anything that deals with not standing in your authority and not being vocal about the things that you love and care about, I feel like. And how other people can sometimes infiltrate the things that we do have going on and things like that, and setting boundaries. That's something that I should have mentioned earlier, setting boundaries, between yourself and others. If people, last note, if you do find at the time of this full moon that you do realize that there are some people who just simply don't know a boundary and who are always wanting to pull out of you without giving to you, and who seek to you for comfort but don't provide that comfort, or emotional stability, or emotional expansion, or emotional intimacy, or reciprocation, then I would 100% set a boundary with that. Because you're going to start seeing that at that time, you're going to start seeing who really wants to pour into you and who wants to just simply benefit from you. You're going to see that. So yeah, I would 100% say keep a lookout for that. So that's going to do it for me, actually. I hope that you got what you needed out of this video. I know that we were talking a lot, so I'm hoping that you got what you needed. If you need anything from me, please feel free to visit me online over at nunamakai.com, because that's where you're going to see writing pieces, writing prompts. Well, not writing prompts, but you're going to see writing pieces, poetry, and all things pertaining to the books that I'm writing and things of that nature. You can also head on over to the SaiyonanPath.org, because that is where you can dive deeper into the ministry, and you can also shop the Ethereum. The Ethereum is a place where I do handcraft your spiritual essentials to help you on your path of remembrance for all of those beautiful and amazing things that I didn't mention earlier. And I would love for you again to become a part of the Saiyonan Circle, where I do pour into you and nourish you behind the scenes in a way that I will not do so in the public. And this is where we can build a deeper bond, where we can really connect with each other on a more intimate level behind the scenes. Okay. Well, again, that's going to do it for me. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your energy cycle. I love you so very much. Take care, and I'll catch you in my next video.